that's a big mistake that I think a lot of pre-meds make is they get.
So I want to jump in to some breaking news for TMDSAS that I think every student needs to be aware of, especially if you were planning on applying to Baylor College of Medicine, which historically has been part of AMCAS, but is now part of TMDSAS. Scott,
Yep.
You're the
Yes.
former executive director of TMDSAS, and
Yes.
I heard through the grapevine potentially that you got this ball rolling.
Yeah, well, we about a year, maybe a year and a half ago, we started a conversation with Baylor, and they were interested in joining TMDSAS, and I think they had to slow it down for a couple of reasons, internally, logistically, and stuff, but delayed it a year. But I'm very happy that everything has finished out and come up and gone that direction. And I think it's going to be a great thing for Baylor. It's going to be great for the students of the state of Texas and others who are interested in applying to Texas schools. And so I'm pumped about it.
Yeah. So some interesting tidbits. Baylor, while it is a private school, does get state funding from Texas, which is why part of the reason why they're going to move to TMDSAS is now it's state-funded schools are part of TMDSAS versus public schools only. But another interesting thing that I didn't really know about, because I assumed they're a private school, they can do what they want, is because they get state funding, they actually have a little bit of a different out-of-state cap, right? The public schools, by state law, have a maximum 10% out-of-state class restriction.
That's right.
Baylor is set at 30%, which is very interesting to know.
But not by law, by the decision of Baylor itself.
Interesting. Okay.
It's not mandated by law.
Interesting, because I was forwarded a piece of legislation potentially that does state that, but maybe not. But anyway, they have their own little thing. The MSAR with their last class was about 20% out of state. So while a private institution, they are still very in-state friendly.
Yes. Yeah, it's very exciting news, and I'm really pleased about it. So I'm glad that you were able to do a podcast with Enrique, and that'll be cool.
Yeah. So students who may not have needed to apply through TMDSAS may be getting familiar with TMDSAS in the future. So go check out that. That was the pre-med years that's coming out on February 10th. This episode will come out after that. But for those of you watching live, you can go check that out.
Yeah, awesome.
Mapped. Rachel, you want to talk about some fun map stuff that's coming in a release in the next week, the next couple days, actually?
Let's see. So one exciting thing is, in addition to the application section of Mapped, so again, for replay folks, this will all already be up. But for those of you watching live today, February 8th, as of today, you can work on your primary, so your personal statement, personal comments, and also your activities descriptions will be pushing through the most meaningfuls. And that'll work more or less the same way it does in the application. So when you're writing your activity description, if you check it as a most meaningful, then a box will pop up to allow for that additional essay. So that'll, replicate the real application experience as much as possible. And what else do we have pushing out this week?
We have our referral program. You want to talk about that?
That's right. Yeah. So this is going to be, I think, a great way to reward those of you, lots of you. I mean, it makes us so happy. Email to say, oh, I love MAP so much, and I'm showing it to my club or to my friends or to my advisor. And that just makes our hearts so happy. And we want a way to thank you for that. So within the next week or so, we'll be pushing out an official referral program. So I think at the beginning you'll have a coupon code that you use. Eventually it'll be linkified. But you as a student using Mapped will be given a unique code or link. And then when you share that with your friends and fellow club members, if they sign up for Mapped, then you get a bonus month to your Mapped subscription. So if you're on monthly, we'll add a free month. If you're on annual, we'll add a free month at the end of your year. So you can still tell your friends just like you have been, but now you'll get a little credit for it. And then your friend will also get extra time in their free trial. So everybody wins.
Nice.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Very exciting.
Awesome.
My camera went black, so I'm going to stay like this for a minute. I think you guys can still hear me.
Yeah, you're frozen.
Yeah, we can still hear you.
All right.
So let's go ahead and get started with some questions. We had one that was pre-asked. Ryan, is it only black in terms of optics? Like, can you see?
Yeah, I can see, and I just switched over to my other good camera that usually comes through crappy, so we'll make it work. All right. I don't see the pre-question.
Chat.
I don't see it there. Nope.
I'll read it. Because I posted it before you logged on. A student asked, I stopped my clinical experience to focus on studying for the MCAT. I don't want it to look like it was a, quote, checked box activity, end quote. Do you have any advice on how that will be viewed?
So, I think that, if you've already done it, then it's sort of, neither here nor there. But to me, I don't think it's always a good idea to sort of drop everything to study for the MCAT. And because that's going to be obvious on your application that you discontinued this or that or whatever to study for the MCAT. Now, I do think that reducing for the semester that you're taking the MCAT, reducing somewhat the number of hours that you're taking, or trying to, arrange your schedule in such a way to allow you more time to study, or less stress in terms of the type of classes you're taking, stuff like that, is a good idea. But I do often worry about students who feel like they have to kind of drop everything just to concentrate specifically on the MCAT, because that, I think I don't know. I think to an admissions committee, if they look close enough, then I think it can look like you have to do that in order to perform well on the MCAT. You can't really do that in med school. So,
yeah. Medical school is not one where you can just drop everything for the sake of one thing, and you can only focus on that one thing for a while, and then you drop everything else and focus on that other thing, and so definitely I think there's going to be a potential issue if you need to do that. Now, with that said, right? Do what you need to do to get a good score, but know that it may come back to bite you.
Yeah. And this is thorny, right? I think last week, maybe when we were doing our public Ask the Dean, someone on Clubhouse who worked full time said she might take a couple weeks off work. And I told her, that happens a lot.
Yep.
The optics of that is a little different, because probably her resume is still just going to say, like, I have a full-time job this year, because she just decided essentially to use her PTO for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And I have known people who, like Dr. Wright was saying, have cut back, right? So if you were doing, 4/12s at the hospital, maybe you asked them if you could do 3/12s instead or something for a while. It's unfair, but the MCAT rewards people who can make it their full-time job, which is an unfair thing, period, right? Because not everyone has that luxury of time and money. And then it also does weird things with scheduling, because a lot of the people who are lucky enough to be able to make MCAT their full-time job are doing it in the summer, which kind of doesn't run up very nicely with the ideal time to take the MCAT. So there's just a lot of weirdnesses here. I think if you can find a way to cut things out of your life that are less pertinent to med school, right? Like if you're in the ski club, just as a random example.
Right.
This is the semester to drop ski club. Right?
Yeah. Especially the lines at the lifts are ridiculous. Big with COVID protocols. That's all I see online living in Colorado is people complaining about it's crazy. Like literally people lined up all the way up the mountain waiting to get on the lift. And that's supposed to be like COVID numbers too. So it's not going well. Hey, ski season's important out here.
Yeah, and I mean, even I use that example as like a random thing, but maybe ski is the one thing that holds this person's sanity together.
Yeah, good point.
Right? Like, so, I mean, the not easy answer here is, yeah, you should cut something, but that might mean cutting back, not cutting.
Right.
And don't cut your sanity.
Right. Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely.
Yep.
All right, that's it for pre-asked, Ryan. So can you see the comments?
Yep.
All right.
First one here. As my semester has started, I found that 2 of the classes I'm taking for fun, humanities classes, are a little more stressful than I bargained for. I was wondering if med schools would care if I switched them from letter grade to pass-fail. I guess I'm just concerned that I would look lazy if I had 2 pass-fail classes my second semester senior year.
Yeah, well, this is an interesting question because I think it depends on a little bit on how closely the admissions committee or the members of the committee are looking at your academic record and sort of diving down deeply into the nuances of everything. I'm assuming that this person is applying is doing a gap year if they're already in their senior year and they're it sounds like they're going to be applying this next cycle. So I wouldn't say it's going to be a horrible thing to see on an academic record. I don't think it would cause you to look lazy necessarily. You just have to be prepared in an interview setting to address it and to say, this is why I did it this way. So, I don't think it's optimal, but I wouldn't freak out about it.
Yeah. I would not freak out either. That's a t-shirt. I wouldn't freak out about it. All right, pass fail. A lot of schools, it's like just those prereqs are really important. So good. All right, next one up. How many credits do you recommend one take while studying for the MCAT April date? So kind of similar to that first question we had about
it is. It is. I think it's not unusual for a student to reduce the number of hours that they take during the semester of the MCAT. I think that's, if it's not normal, then it's fairly typical. I think for students to try to do that. If they don't reduce the hours, then they try to arrange it where the courses are not the most challenging. The semester you're taking the MCAT is not the semester you necessarily want to have 4 or 5 hard science classes all at the same time. But do you, Rachel, you probably have you're like shaking your head and stuff. So
I'm nodding. Yeah, I'm agreeing. Yeah, I mean, for a long time, the rule of thumb was count it like 1 rigorous class.
Yeah.
So if you could go down by one
class,
main class, and again, that's if you're on a scholarship, you have to stay full time. So you've got to juggle your credit hours just right to get to a number that's low enough but high enough. But so I would say if you can, I agree that I've had students, and maybe someone listening this is, but they're like, well, I'm taking OChem 2 and biochem and physics 2 and prepping for the MCAT. And I'm like, good luck. That sounds like a lot to me. If you can make it not tons of rigorous science, and especially not tons of rigorous science that's the same stuff that's on the test.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yep.
Gets busy.
Yep.
I have the opportunity to work as a scribe in the neurosurgery department at a teaching hospital in my area. The hospital is also affiliated with the medical school in my area. Is scribing good clinical experience? I plan on quitting my current full-time job, non-clinical or medical, to work in scribing full time. Would this look bad to medical schools? Yes, no. The two questions.
I mean,
yes.
I love this question. Because I'm just such a fan of scribing.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome. Probably of all of the things that you could do to get clinical experience, I think scribing is one of the best. Yeah. You get so much great experience. You learn so much. You learn the vernacular. You learn just there's so much there. Depending on where you're scribing, I mean, I think it can vary a little bit on where you're doing it and what you're being able to see. But I think this questioner, my comment is good for you. This is going to be awesome. You're going to love it. It's great clinical experience. It's definitely not going to look bad to medical schools. If anything, it'll look great to them because you're getting really good experience. And, I'd say go for it and enjoy it. And really, you're going to learn a lot.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, right? I think this is part of the problems with the medical school admissions process is I think the far majority of admissions members would agree with you that it's an amazing experience. And there's a big asterisk, right? Depending on where you are, there are some scribe positions where you sit out of the room, just in the kind of bullpen area of an emergency department, and the physician goes and sees the patient without you and then comes back and dictates everything to you, right? That's not great experience.
Right.
But part of the problem with this whole process is even though most would agree with you, I've heard from students who have gone to a school open house at a medical school, and the dean or director of admissions at that school says they hate scribing because it's not direct interaction, right? And so it's like it's so frustrating to like, yes, but right, yes, but this school may not like it or that school may not like it, and so it's frustrating. I think in general, scribing is amazing. Yes, it's not technically hands-on, depending on where you're at. Some scribes go in and take a history by themselves, depending on where you're at. So it's frustrating. But anyway, yes, it's great.
And and that kind of the admissions committee members that believe that what you just stated, that they're not doing direct patient interactions or whatever. My comment is where, unless you're certified to do something, then how do you do that? I mean, that's blind and it's stupid. And I think whatever kind of, admissions officer, says that, I mean, I think they don't know what life is like for pre-meds out there trying to get clinical experience.
Yeah. You heard it here first, folks.
Remember last week when we were talking about opinions and advising? Yeah. I mean, I think this just underscores that whole idea of like, it's not black or white, right? There's going to be some variation. And I think we were talking to someone, maybe it was an Am I Ready last week, Scott, who had said the first scribing job she got was transcription in a room.
Right.
Like just earphones on typing. Right. So she did a couple 100 hours and then found a better scribe job and left.
Yeah.
And she was smart enough to keep that gig. She was at least learning some of the terminology until she got her new one. But not all scribe jobs are created equal. And then I guess there's that added layer of perception.
I think my sense is that most scribing jobs are not like that. That most of them, they're following the doc around, they're in the room, they're watching the patient interaction, stuff like that.
Well, and I think it goes back to, many times we've talked about in activity descriptions, you don't want to focus on the title of the job. You want to talk about, briefly what you did and then more importantly, what you learned and got out of it.
Yep.
It's why when someone says, I'm getting this job, is that clinical? We're always like, well, what are you doing? We actually just got a follow-up question, right? Kind of relevant to that.
Yeah, I work scribe at a private orthopedic clinic and have had the luxury of assisting in performing knee injections on consenting patients who knew that I'm a student. Is this something I should talk about in my application?
Yikes. Well, yeah. I mean, this could cut both ways. I feel like with, with, yeah, it's great that the patients were consenting. You're still not covered by malpractice insurance and stuff like that, probably. So, but in terms of how a medical school is going to look at it, I worry about that. I would say err on the side of conservatism and don't talk about it.
Let me twist the question a little bit. What benefit is there in mentioning this?
Yes, exactly.
There's none. Right. A lot of students will think about, and I see, I'm sure you see it all the time, Scott. I see this all the time, is I know how to do this. I've done this. I know how to read x-rays. I know how to inject knees. Great. That doesn't mean I should accept you, right? We're going to teach you all that stuff in medical school.
Yeah, that's right.
And really in residency is where you learn a lot of the procedural stuff. And so that doesn't give a student a leg up, the fact that you've done those things. Right. So going back to erring on the side of being conservative, there's no benefit in mentioning it. Yeah. There's more risks, right? And everything in medicine is risk benefit, and there's more risk than benefit here.
I agree completely. I wouldn't mention it.
Yeah.
All right. One more clinical.
I'm applying after 15 years of clinical experience in the OR. With that amount of experience, is it really still necessary to get quote-unquote shadowing hours? Good question. I love this for medical people.
Yeah, so my feeling here is, without knowing in depth kind of what you were doing in the OR and stuff. So if you were like a surgical technician or a nurse, in the OR or whatever, then that's one thing. But I think the benefit of shadowing or other clinical experience is that getting a different perspective on medicine. So if you've been in the OR for 15 years, all medicine is not in the OR. And so, it might be beneficial to do a little bit of shadowing of a family doc or a pediatrician or, something else to get that perspective on what medicine is all about. Just so that, if all of your clinical experience is in the OR, then that's great. You've got great clinical experience after 15 years. That's awesome. But I would say the benefit of shadowing is not so you can check off a box or something, but it is so that you get the full, a fuller picture of what this is all about in a private office or a clinic, something like that. So that would be my thought.
Yeah, my general recommendation, or what I typically say to students, especially a lot of nurses who I talk to who want to go to medical school, is your interaction with that physician typically ends at the bedside. And so you don't know what that physician is doing when they go back to their office, when they're arguing with the insurance companies and dealing with patients or other physicians or whatever else they're doing. And there is benefit stepping away from your clinical role and the interaction that the two of you have together to see what that life is like. And so I definitely recommend it. It's obviously not something where you need to go get a ton of hours racked up, but just spend a little bit of time trying to do something. I have no clinical experience and no research, but I have shadowing and volunteering due to COVID. Would I be a strong enough applicant, or should I wait?
Well, wow. Shadowing and volunteering. So, this is the kind of question where I really feel at a disadvantage, not knowing more deeply, how much shadowing, how much volunteering, what kind of volunteering you had, et cetera. So I feel really not able to answer the question, would I be a strong enough applicant or should I wait? It's the whole package, it's the whole, you want to have a well-rounded package of an application to go forward. If you have no clinical experience and no research I'm not as concerned about, but clinical experience, I think, that's important. And I would say if you don't have any at all, and all you've done is shadow a little bit, then I would say, maybe 150 of each, 150 hours of each. Okay. Well, I would still say, I don't know. That's a tough call. That's a tough call.
Oh, it's easy for me. It's easier for me. No clinical experience, no apply. That's
okay.
I mean,
I agree.
For me, it's straight up. My question always is, if you have no clinical experience, how the heck do you know you like taking care of patients?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like, frankly, if he or she's got 150 hours with 4 doctors, she says,
Yep.
150 hours of volunteering. So 150 hours of shadowing 4 doctors, I think you get a pretty good idea of what is going on.
Well, an idea of what's going on, but here's my problem with that, Scott, again, this is personal experience just from going through this process myself. Shadowing is very exciting for pre-meds because they're like living their dream, like little mini me's, getting to pretend to be a doctor for a day or for 150 hours. But that's different than getting in the muck of dealing with patients and interacting with the patients. Because shadowing, if it's true shadowing, is super passive. You're not doing much. You're just observing. And yeah, like I get it. I talk about this all the time. It's exciting for a while, and then it gets boring because then it's just repeating the same thing over and over again. Right. But that's different than taking care of someone, than actually expending your energy to empathize and to be compassionate. And students who may really love the doctor side of things will realize with interaction that they hate it because they don't like feeling like they're being drained by this human being sitting across from them. And that's a very different feeling of interaction.
Well, I don't disagree with that. I just think that I think that my feeling from my own experience with our admissions committee is that I don't know sometimes, depending on the committee member, if I get the feeling that some committee members on an admissions committee may not feel that or be aware enough of the differences between shadowing and clinical experience.
Yeah.
They're going to say, okay, do you know what you're getting into? Yes, you spent 150 hours following 4 different doctors around. You have a pretty good idea of what these 4 doctors do on a daily basis.
Yep.
And I don't disagree with what you're saying, Ryan, but I'm saying that admissions committee members, particularly those that are non-clinical, you got admissions committee members who are basic scientists, who don't have any kind of background in medicine other than teaching biochemistry or whatever, and so I think that I agree that I think having clinical experience is great for the very reasons that you noted. Yep. But I don't think that in and of itself that's necessarily a reason to say don't move forward. We can disagree a little bit on that, but
we disagree a lot on that, and that's okay. I like disagreeing.
Yeah, and just for the record, I come down on Ryan's side on this one. I have nothing official I can quote right now, but just from having friends and coworkers who are on admissions committees, often in like the med student role of an admissions committee, like helping with those sort of lower level parts of it. Some of them have quoted to me clinical hour minima that aren't posted on websites, but exist.
Yeah.
So, and that doesn't mean it's everywhere. And it sure doesn't mean it's official, because I'm decidedly telling you it's not official. But I think that some of those systems may be in place with those cutoffs to account for, because there is, among pre-meds, there's a lot of conflation between shadowing and clinical. People get that confused all the time.
Right.
But so, yeah, if I were the personal advisor of this question asker, I would say you're going to put all that money and heartache in, and for what?
Yep.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. Best of all worlds, you would get clinical experience and move, and then move forward.
Yeah.
But in the age of COVID, that may not be possible. So,
yeah. Can you tell us some of those numbers? There aren't those numbers. We don't know those numbers.
How many times did I caveat for that for you guys? No, I can't.
Yeah.
Go get clinical because it's not about the number. Go figure out that you like wiping someone else's butt. Because if you don't, you shouldn't do this. Because even if you're a surgeon, it's going to happen to you.
Yep.
I have literally spent time scooping poop out of someone's rectum.
Lovely.
As a medical student. Very, very interesting disease of Hirschsprung's disease, right? Where the migration of neural cells didn't make it all the way down to the anus to control the sphincter properly. It's very interesting.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing.
Okay. Well, that's the thing, though. It's like it might bother you and me, but it can't bother a physician.
No, I
handle it.
totally agree with that. You have to be willing to endure all kinds of odors and all kinds of sights and all of that. And you're exactly right.
Yeah.
And to Ryan's point, I think that stuff is less draining than the emotional stuff.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Yeah, poop is nothing compared to you are ruining my life with your news.
Ouch. It's extreme. Ruining my life.
People get upset.
Yes, they do.
Okay, let's move on. Another question around cutoffs. Different, though.
How can we filter out medical schools that have a 3.0 GPA applicants cutoff? Just so we know not to waste time and money. Even though post-bacc is 3.6, cumulative GPA would still be a problem at most schools.
Well, number one, you don't know that. So the questioner says cumulative GPA would still be a problem at most med schools. That
says who?
Yeah, it says who. I mean, you can't say that because you don't know that. And I would say most medical schools do a deep dive on GPAs and stuff, particularly for post-bacc students, and look at trends. And I know at Southwestern when I was there, we would allow the post-bacc GPA to replace the cumulative GPA in a lot of circumstances, because that more really represented the student than their cumulative did. And so, yeah. So I don't agree with the questioner that's how it works.
Yeah.
And so
the easy answer is you can't, because we don't know those. Most schools don't publicize those to protect themselves and just so they have flexibility. But I think the bigger thing is, again, there's black and white, which is what most students are thinking, 3.0 or bust. But the way that these systems can be set up, and doesn't mean that they are set up this way, but they can be set up this way. As Scott, you were mentioning, a post-bacc GPA could replace an undergraduate GPA without the post-bacc. Is a school can say, right, I want to filter out everyone less than a 3.0 cumulative GPA, period. But if they have less than a 3.0 GPA, but they have a post-bacc GPA greater than 3.5, I want to bring them back in. Right?
Yeah.
I don't want to forget about them. Or if they don't have a 3.5 post-bacc GPA because they didn't do a post-bacc, but they have greater than a 3.5 master's GPA, bring them back in. Right?
Yeah.
And so there are lots of ways that schools can manipulate all of the data points on their own to make sure that they are capturing students who they believe will be academically capable of passing their medical school.
Right.
And passing the boards based on their own experience.
Yep.
And so while we kind of throw out this general 3.0 GPA rule of thumb, we can bust that rule of thumb just as easily by saying, well, what is the story behind those numbers? And what does your post-bacc look like? Or what does your master's degree look like? Right? And then all of a sudden that 3.0 quote-unquote rule of thumb goes out the window.
Yeah. Becomes meaningless.
It becomes meaningless. Yes.
Yep.
All right. Similar question.
I currently have a low cumulative GPA from my previous college of 2.5 due to undiagnosed ADD, but my current GPA is 3.6 at the college I'm attending now. I'm a senior. Should I get my master's first before applying to medical school?
Well, so previous college 2.5, current college 3.6. Wow, that's a huge difference. And I mean, so I would say you might be a good candidate for a post-bac program, depending on kind of the details that we don't really know by virtue of this question. But I would say, I'd look at, because about tens here, so I would look at, I would say strongly consider doing a post-bac program, as opposed to, if you're going to do a master's, do a special master's program. But I think post-bac's the way to go in this scenario.
Yeah. Yeah, the quote unquote previous college, is that 1 semester, 2 semesters, is that 4 years? What does that look like? So there's still lots of questions of what the total GPA looks like. What is that 3.6? How many credits is that?
Right. Right.
Okay. I've experienced a lot of trauma during my undergrad. Each semester I had something come up, whether it be financial circumstances, injuries, or emotional trauma. Do I explain all these circumstances in my essay, or leave them out unless they ask? Upward trend after undergrad.
Well, the problem here is that you don't want to appear to be what I call a crisis magnet.
Yeah.
And that can be a real problem if you present in your application that this happened on this semester and this happened on this semester, because the concern of the medical schools is going to be what's going to happen in med school if you have trauma, or if you have somebody get sick in your family, or is the same thing going to happen in med school that's happened in undergrad, where it's semester after semester is something going on that causes you to not be able to do well. That's a real problem. And so what I would say is, just I don't think you want to explain all these in your essay. I don't like that idea at all. And if you're applying, AMCAS, you don't really have a whole lot of place to put stuff like that, except in secondaries. Where you can talk about adversity or whatever. And a lot of them have questions about that, overcoming adversity. But I would say no, not in the personal statement.
Yeah, agree. Like one potential thing that came up, maybe, right? And we had talked about red flags and personal statements and an episode or two ago. But just issue after issue after issue. Definitely not.
And this comes up. This comes up. Not. I mean, this is not. It's not typical. It's. I wouldn't call it necessarily rare.
Yeah.
But I've seen it happen a few times where, the admissions committee just, it was a little overwhelming, and they were like, well, we don't really have anything to hang our hat on here, because there's always something happening.
Yep.
And we will just, it's too easy to say there's too much confusion here. There's too many, there's just too much. And so we're just going to let this one drop. So you don't want to get to a point like that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So would you say instead better to focus on, this commenter, their last comment was, I have an upward trend under undergrad.
Yeah, I would say this is the kind of thing that you might want to do a post-bac if it almost sounds like they're doing something upward trend after. Yeah, it sounds that way. So
more like a summation of, I didn't have all of it together in undergrad, but after undergrad, like the focus is on the positive part of it.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly right.
We feel your pain. We're not doubting.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, and I'm not. Yeah, I'm just.
Impression.
Exactly. And I'm sorry that there's been so many things in your life that have caused, difficulties and stuff. And I'm not, I'm not being, a jerk about this, but I just, want you to get the full story here.
It's a hard reality. People cringe.
Yeah, it
from
is.
That stuff,
Yeah,
and you don't want people to cringe from you during an application.
Yep.
So there's a little bit of just thinking about the psychology of your reader.
Yeah.
All right.
I've been a caretaker for my mother for years. This experience is my, quote, seed and will be a large part of my personal statement. Do I add this to the activities section as well? And how do I explain it as an activity?
Well, we get this similar kind of question, quite a bit about caring for family members. The question being, do you count that as clinical hours or, whatever? It's kind of the questions are around that kind of stuff. And so I would definitely say you can add it to your activities section, and you could add it as clinical and estimate the hours and stuff like that. I definitely think it's something that you need to talk about in your personal statement if that indeed is the seed. So I would say yes on the activities section, and what you do is you explain what you did and what you got out of it. The what and the so what. What did you do, and then what impact did this have on you in the activities section as well as in the essay.
Yep.
All right.
Hello, my wife is an MS2 here in Texas. I will be applying to her school, amongst others, this upcoming cycle. Would her medical school take this into consideration? Also, any Valentine's Day gift recommendations for med students are welcome.
Awesome. Most med schools, it depends on the medical school in terms of relationships. Yep. Whether it's boyfriend, girlfriend, or whether it's, marriage or, we get this is not unusual where students are trying to be at the same school as their partner. And so they're trying to, work that out. Now, having said that, I think that my feeling is that most medical schools are not going to allow that to be a big part of the process. They want their, they want to help if possible to put you at the same school or in close proximity as your partner, but I don't think most med schools are going to use that as a big part of the admissions decision.
Yeah. It's not huge leverage that you have that's going to help overcome something that may have held you back to begin with.
Could it be used the other way? Like, is someone going to say, I don't want to take you here, you're too far from your wife?
Well, why would another school know that?
Yeah.
No, I guess that's my point. Like, we didn't talk about where this is being disclosed.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it would probably only be a secondary or some sort of separate update to the school.
Yeah.
I'll give one story, right? It's an anecdotal story. So moral of the story for this student, I don't think it hurts to tell that one school that your wife is there and why you want to go there if it's part of a secondary,
right,
potentially, or even a separate update.
Right.
One kind of anecdotal story, I had a student a couple of years ago whose wife, they were applying together. His wife got into school, I believe it was Wake Forest, doesn't matter. He was rejected by the school. His wife got in. He sent a letter, FedExed a letter to the school saying, hey, you just accepted my wife. I was rejected. I would love for you to take another look at my application. I didn't see the specifics of what he wrote, but it was enough that it triggered a review. He ended up getting an interview and ended up getting an acceptance, right? So always advocate for yourself, because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
absolutely. There was something when I was in the military, we had a talk very early on by someone who was near retirement or had just retired, and he said, no one in the Air Force is going to advocate for you to better your career, but no one is going to care if you advocate for yourself. And I took that to heart for everything in life, to go, I need to fight for what I want.
Yeah.
And not everyone is going to listen, or it might not affect something, but it may affect, right? And there's obviously appropriate ways of advocating for yourself and respectful ways of advocating for yourself. And so this is a situation for this student to say, hey, my wife is a student here. Here are all the reasons why I love your school based on the conversations that I have with her and that I have with her and my own research and everything else. And that may be just enough to bump you if you were neck and neck with someone else.
Yeah, and I also think that this is an opportunity for your wife to advocate for you too, from her vantage point.
Yep.
To say, to go to the admissions dean and say, hey, I just wanted you to be aware that my husband's applying this year. We would, obviously love to be at the same medical school, but not, oh, will you take my husband? But just be aware that this applicant, here's his name, here's his ID number or whatever. He's applying this year, and just wanted you to be aware that there's this connection. Yeah, because they're not going to know otherwise. So I think both, the advocating can go from both sides of that.
Definitely, and she has the benefit of knowing the culture of the school, and can add and say, hey, my husband will be a great addition because of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Cool. Good luck. And Valentine's Day recommendations?
No recommendations. I'm not good at that stuff. Take her out to dinner or something. Med students are always hungry.
Yep.
For free food.
Ooh, what's the biggest mistake you see pre-meds make?
There's a lot of mistakes pre-meds make. But I think one of the biggest mistakes is they get too much in their own head, and they listen to too many people that don't know. I'm sorry about the French there, but they don't know. They pre-meds. You guys listen to people on Reddit. You listen to people on Student Doctor Network. You listen to your friends at your undergraduate institution. They don't know any more than you know.
Yep.
So don't listen to all this. Be careful who you listen to. Now, obviously, if you're listening to this broadcast right now, or if you're listening to the podcast or watching the video later, then good for you. You're getting stuff from sources that are reliable and have experience and stuff like that. But I would caution pre-meds, and I think it's a huge mistake, because all it does is makes you more anxious. It gives you often bad information, and so that's a big mistake that I think a lot of pre-meds make, is they get too messed up by listening to people that don't really know anything.
Yeah, 1,000%. I think that's it, right? Student Doctor Network, Reddit for a lot of stuff as well. Students taking all of that information as gospel, and taking that information and trying to replicate what students are putting out, saying, here's everything that I did, without any sort of processing of that information.
Right.
Number one, filtering it to go what's BS and what's not, but then processing that information. What will work for me? What story have I lived? What do I want to do?
Right.
And just students going, okay, they did this and this and this and this, and that's why they got in, so I'm going to do those same things, and then I'm going to get in. Right. Yeah. And it's from day one, when I started the medical school headquarters, I specifically said, this has nothing to do about me, right? I don't want to come and make a website and talk about, this is what I did, this is what you should do. It was the exact opposite of why I started the website. And so I go out and I get to interact and talk to amazing people like yourself, Scott, and Rachel, and talk to the dean of NYU and have the director of admissions for schools just on email or text message, just at a whim, so I can stay in contact with the decision makers and put out real information. So that's definitely a huge problem.
Yeah,
I agree.
It's about finding experts who have seen hundreds and thousands of cases over years, as opposed to anecdotes. I think I see a lot of premeds who love anecdotes. They love, here's what my friend did, here's what the president of my club did, here's what my older brother did. I'm not saying those stories aren't true. Sometimes people are lying. If you look on SDN, no one ever gets below 5'10". That's a lie. It's also a sample size thing, but some of it are straight up lies. But, your brother, your friend, your club president, they're probably all telling you true stories. It's just that those are anecdotes, right? What we're trying to give you here, and what we're trying to curate with the guests, that you hear on so many of Ryan's podcasts, is expertise from people who are working with numbers and maths.
Yes. Yeah.
The only other thing I would put on the biggest mistake list is not starting things early enough.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, well, I'll do clinical after I get my prereqs. And hopefully if you've been listening to Ask the Dean for even more than a few weeks, now we think you should be starting clinical sometime during your first or second year of college.
Yeah.
People who think they can do the MCAT in 2 months when usually it takes you 3 or 4. Some people can do 2, but if you only allow 2, you're up against a wall, right?
Yeah.
Planning to take the MCAT in June, maybe June is the only time you can, but planning to take it in June when you already know you want to apply to a COMAS in May and a AMCAS in June. So why are you planning to take the MCAT in June, right? I want to help everybody pull forward their stuff so that they're not always up against a wall on time. I don't want people to make a mistake or have something go wrong and then say, now I might have to delay a year. I'm like, pull forward your actions so that you're building cushion in. I can't tell you the number of people I've talked to over the years who have done MCAT prep and failed to give a cushion week for getting the flu, or have told themselves, oh, I'll keep studying for the MCAT during finals week.
Yeah.
Just give yourself that week off. It's okay.
Yeah.
Or they've told me that they can meet every Friday, and then 3 months later they're like, oh, but only, every Friday afternoon, but actually I celebrate the Sabbath, so only afternoon until it gets dark, and I live on the East Coast. And I'm like, okay, so why do we set you up for 4 p.m. appointments that are gonna become irrelevant as soon as it starts getting dark earlier? Just think ahead.
Yep.
And that's what I would really like to help premeds do. It's part of why we have MAPT, right? Is we're trying to pull forward that sort of planning.
Yeah, that's right. I agree. That's a good point, Rachel.
All right. Let's see. Got time for one more, I think.
Yeah.
How extensively should I revise my application summaries and essays for a new cycle?
So this sounds like a reapplicant.
Yep.
And I say the essays especially, you redo the essays. You don't use the old essay. You have to write a new essay, which sounds terrible, and I know that, but you really have to. And I think part of the new essay may well need to address, being a reapplicant and what this has done and what you've done to sort of improve and change your application and make it stronger, et cetera. But do not use now activity descriptions and stuff like that. Yeah. That's, it is what it is, but essays, I think you got to redo them.
Yeah. My general recommendation is redo everything that you can redo, because at the end of the day, you don't know truly why you didn't get in the first time. You may assume it's because your MCAT wasn't great, but maybe there were some issues with your activity descriptions. You didn't really focus on who you are. Let the reviewer understand a little bit more of who you are. So it's always a potential issue. So as much as you can, redoing all of your application, and then getting new letters of recommendations or updates if there are ones that you just can't redo.
Yeah.
The one thing, Scott, that students are always afraid of is our schools going back to old essays for reapplicants, right?
I've done it.
Yeah.
I've done it.
What are you looking for?
I'm looking to see if they redid anything.
Yeah.
You know, is it the same essay they had last time? Is it a different essay? How's it different? Now, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time doing that, but I've done it before and it's especially easy with electronic systems. You can just pull the two up and have them side by side easily and kind of look at them. But I'm interested in general for a reapplicant. If they applied last year, what did their application look like last year? What did we do with their application last year at my medical school? And then how is this year different? And if it's clear that they've made some real efforts to improve their application, whatever that meant for that application, then that's a good sign. If there's not a whole lot different, then I'm like, what do they expect? They do the same thing, they submit the exact same thing, and yet they're wanting different results. And I don't think that that's wise, but I have looked at past applications and stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Another Ask the Dean in the books.
Yeah, in the books. Awesome.
Thanks for coming out, everybody.
Yeah. Good to see you.
See you next time.
Adios.